Yes, welcome to the No Stay Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. Glad to be with you here today, live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona, where we are, of course, live every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, 1 to 4 on the Pacific Coast, and Sunday morning from about 9 to noon down under. So glad to be with you here. Got a lot of stuff to get to. 218-632-9399 is the number to reach the big show. The passcode is 2020. That's 2020 with the pound sign or the hashtag. And you could join me also at Frank Rizzo 3. It's Frank Rizzo with the number 3. We can put you into the chat also. And yes, I did take the link off of the website. So as far as I know, the only people who have joined the chat this week have been people that contacted me first. So definitely do that. If you want to join the show on Skype, instant message me first. Don't just call into the broadcast. I will get you up on the big show during a break. And so a couple things to get to right off the bat. Remember that Libertopia 2018 is just a few months away in beautiful Humphreys by the Bay down there in San Diego. Absolutely wonderful venue. So May 3rd through May 6th, and we'll be doing the big show live from there also. So hope to see you out there. It's libertopia.org, libertopia.org. Sign up today. Let them know that you heard about it here on the big show. You know, I'm going to be doing a separate video also for this guy, Stephen W. Myrie. Wow, I spoke about it a bit during the show on the Wednesday broadcast, which I finally got I finally got posted this morning. So if you haven't heard that or seen that video, it's just go to markstevens.net. I just got that posted. Also have the audio of the podcast set. But definitely check out the video because got some graphics, a bit more information that and again, I'm going to do an entire video on this guy Myrie. And you know what's interesting is here's a guy who has been a top prosecutor or in Nevada for a number of years, and he was before that he was a U.S. attorney, a prosecutor in Texas, and he's had a pretty good profile as far as things he's done, prosecuting wise. There's a surprising lack of actual pictures of this guy. You know, you want to get Eric Holder or someone that was his boss, or or even get a picture of his boss. You can get pictures of them. But to get a picture of this Stephen W. Myrie, yeah, not so good. And there's very little about the guy, period, online. So I'm going to do my spotlight on tyranny, and so I got a little more research that I want to do to try to get some information. But I'm pretty certain that I did find a picture that's not available, and I'm going to make that available. So I'm pretty certain I know where he went to high school, and it's kind of up in the air. Bloomberg only has two pieces of information regarding his college, and I don't know which one it is. There's 2 law schools listed, so I got to try to make sense of that. But this guy Stephen Myrie and his team, I don't have the whole team's name. I have to do some research and get that. I discussed on the show how Gloria Navarro, and I have a picture of her in the video too. Well, there's a lot of pictures of her. Throughout the indictment against the Bundys, I guess it was almost a month ago. Well, it was in December for this is the judge's words: flagrant prosecutorial misconduct. Flagrant, and it's not the first time that this Stephen W. Myrie has had something tossed out, one of his precious little indictments thrown out. And remember, like with the Bunnies, he wanted life sentences. Life sentences. So this guy was willing to withhold exculpatory evidence to put people in jail for the rest of their lives. This is a sick individual. Stephen W. Myrie. So I'm going to do what I can to get as much information about him so I can get a decent historical profile on this guy so people know about him. I'd like a little bit more than just where he went to high school and where he went to college. But I guess because he is a U.S. attorney, an assistant U.S. attorney, I guess that's probably why there's no pictures of this guy. I guess these guys are able to go to Google or whatnot, and they're able to scrub the internet of their images. Someone else who, again, there's one actual photograph of him. There's one actual photograph of the guy that is fairly decent that he's walking down the street, and that's the one I have in a video. There's another one which is really blurry. It looks like it was taken with a flip phone in 2006 or 2007. But you still can tell who it is. That's why I think the third picture that I was able to find, pretty certain it's him. But we'll get that up. But imagine that in 2018, a guy about 60 years old has no real good pictures or information about them on the internet. How is that even possible? I guess maybe prosecutors are told not to keep Facebook pages, they're not to have Instagram accounts or whatnot, because the guy's got nothing. And he was in his 40s when the internet really took off in the mid-90s. So you'd think there would be something, at least some things about him professionally. Almost nothing. It's just what really gets me here is when they talk about criminal contempt. Yeah, criminal contempt will be fine to go after these guys, but just like with Joe Arpaio, you have to have a trial. And what, a prosecutor is going to bring someone from his own office to trial? No. Again, if this Navarro, and this wasn't the first time Stephen Myrie has been hit with flagrant prosecutorial misconduct, U.S. versus Chapman, which I'll get some information on and maybe get in the show notes. The judge actually stated that the sanctions should be the highest allowed by law against him for what he did, because the abuse was so bad. And again, if you didn't hear the Wednesday show, the judge, Navarro, could have taken the entire prosecuting team and held them in civil contempt. I mean, they're trying, these people are vicious animals. They're trying to put people in jail for the rest of their lives. And if you want to do that and you've got the goods on them, like Michael Slager shooting an unarmed man in the back when he was running away, and then being caught planting evidence. So, yeah, but here to withhold, and this gets back to what Judge Kaczynski had mentioned a couple of years ago, that Brady violations are at an epidemic level. For Judge Navarro to actually throw it out for prosecutorial misconduct, because there are cases you can look up where it's prosecutorial misconduct and they just let it go. They don't do anything about it. You can yell and scream from the rafters all you want. The judge is abafunkel. They don't care. So for a judge, especially a federal judge, to actually take a stand and throw it out, you know it had to be bad. It had to be absolutely horrible. You put their butts in jail for contempt. That's how you know. Again, because if we go in and a cell phone goes off, these people lose their minds. But trying to put people in jail, and by withholding evidence, making false statements in court, the man committed false statements. Title 18, Section 1001, that is a felony for each one. But no. Just say that they should be sanctioned. Don't actually do it, which is why they're going to continue doing it. And that's why Kaczynski said the only way it's going to stop is if judges hold them accountable. Because they're really the only ones that can hold them accountable unless you start marching on City Hall. Gets back to what I wanted to do a while ago. And that is, if we could get hearings, even at the county level, which is all we'd be able to do, or even at the city level, which is what I try to do in Scottsdale and Tempe, to get these judges out of their hallowed halls, out of that stupid black robe, no contempt powers, sit their butts down at a hearing where they have to answer questions, where they have to show. the evidence that the prosecutions generally use to show personal jurisdiction, which of course we know they don't have any evidence. But then at least get them into a public hearing so that people can see them for what they are. These judges are just as dishonest as the prosecutors, who are just as dishonest as the cops. So that's something we need to start pushing for again. And I know I need to start doing that myself. I need to continue the effort and do that. I can't be the only one doing it, though. People have channels that, have half the subs that I have, but they get 10 times the views. They need to be doing it also. I had Colby Granville. I got a few thousand views in a few years. Nobody's, not many people are watching. So we need more people with bigger channels that get more, have a better scope of influence to go and do these things, confront city councils, try to get a hearing set up where at least one of these judges or even one of the prosecutors, get them out of the court, get them away from the judges, get them where they have to answer the questions and they can't just call the police because you are giving them a difficult question. They can't just threaten you with, with prosecution, at least not there. If people don't see them for what they are. And that's it. What kind of a signal does it send when the judge is saying it's flagrant prosecutorial misconduct and don't sanction the prosecutors? So not only are the prosecutors figuring, well, I'm still getting paid. I went home that day. I'm going to still have a job. My pension is safe. No big deal. Apparently flagrant misconduct is no big deal. And the average person who hears this, wow, nothing happened to the prosecutors. Well, they threw the case out, big deal, but the prosecutor, nothing happened. I know if I don't show, if I'm late for a court date, they threaten me with contempt. When you see them the way we have, well, let's just say when they're so flagrant with their contempt, then you really have to question why they're not holding these people in contempt. Apparently, there's a problem with my feed, so we'll be back here on the No Say Project in just a moment. Don't go away. I don't know. I hope we're back. So, guys, if we're back, give me, send me, give me a, some kind of signal that we're back. But what I was talking about before was getting in front of city council meetings. And, well, yeah, guys, and don't worry, we're going to have the good audio, of course, of the broadcast that will be posted at markstevens.net. And so what I'm talking about is trying to get some light on, so people, the average person, so because a lot of what we do is actually education, so people know what they're dealing with. So how do we socially evolve and get more people behind the idea of anarchy and not having a ruling class? We have to show that there is a ruling class and they are criminals and that they are as dishonest as any criminals, that's what criminals are. And so when you see these things like with these prosecutors with this flagrant prosecutorial misconduct, it's going to be my pet statement now. When you see things like that, when other, when other people do see that, they'll understand, oh my gosh, it's another example. It's like the tide seems to be turning where cops, people see just how dangerous cops are. They need to also understand just how dangerous prosecutors and judges are because they're on the same damn team, for heaven's sakes. It's all the same team. So, one of the things I want to also get to is, Shelby's been on the show before. I don't always, hey, criticism is always welcome on the show. And I'll still even tolerate certain shots. What excuse am I going to have not to get a parking violation and challenge jurisdiction? Because he wanted me to do a case study on people who go into the chat for role-playing and have gotten my motions to dismiss and and challenge. So we'll do a study and we'll follow it bit by bit and report on it and publish the findings, maybe do a show, so where we'll talk with the people who are involved, what the tactic is, how they went through the role play, and then they'll report back to us what happened in court. And so I'm sure Shelby's thing is, He just wants to show that people are not going in and getting traffic tickets thrown out. That it doesn't matter that how many success story posts that we have. None of that matters, I guess. It's just to show that no one or not as many people are getting tickets thrown out. So I'm fine with doing the challenge and doing the work to get that. So if there is anybody listening who is new to the material and is having a traffic ticket that they're having to fight, then please contact me at markstevens@mail.com or frankrizzle3 on Skype, or just call into the broadcast, and you could be the first one that we start reporting on and following to do that. My excuse for not going to get a parking ticket in challenging jurisdiction is because I'm a bit too busy, and if I'm going to start doing even more work, I just don't have the opportunity to do that. Now, you want it, look, so somebody, but I've done it already. It's not like I haven't gone to gone to court with the parking ticket study and did it. I did, and I do have the details posted at markstevens.net, and so I'm not going to do it again unless the opportunity presents itself. I don't even have a car most of the time, so it's very difficult for me to travel around the valley, okay? So take from that whatever the hell you want, but the case study wasn't supposed to be about me going in and doing a challenge. That's not how I understood it. It was to have other people, and it was to show people in the role play and see how many people who go into the role play actually get a dismissal. We know that Jermaine is one and got a lot of things thrown out, so he's at least one. So that's my excuse. That's the reason why I'm not probably going to be doing it, because I didn't think it was going to be part of this anyway. And I mentioned him about that. So what are some of the things we're going to be going through here? Not only are we going to be showing how people can perform with a minimal amount of training and role-playing. But the other thing we're going to be showing with this case study is, of course, just how friggin' dishonest the court system is. So we'll have whatever responses the prosecutors may file in response to the motion to dismiss. Now, again, 95% of the time, they do not respond. 95% of the time, the prosecutors don't say a damn word in their own defense. They just sit there and let the judge do it. This isn't like what's going on with this piece of garbage, Stephen M. Myrie, where he is doing a lot of talking. More in traffic tickets and minor stuff like that, misdemeanors, prosecutors tend not to say a damn thing in motion hearings. Again, we will post that. We'll see. So we're going to also, so it has to absolutely be not just a matter of how many people do it and how many people get things tossed out. So let's say a win-loss or a success rate that we'll do for a number of months. The other side of it is showing that we are going against the criminal organization, that these judges will say and do whatever they have to protect that prosecutor. So we're going to be documenting also just how damn dishonest these people are. So, you have to be, you can't just look at it in a bubble like I think Shelby wants to do. Shelby just wants to see a win-loss without any context. But you can't do that. That's not honest. It's not appropriate. You have to look at the context. You have to look at what the judge and prosecutor and the police officer, you have to take all that into account, what they're actually saying. So if you have a situation where the judge will not hold the prosecutor to their burden of proof, and somebody does not prevail, you can't turn around and say that shows that you're ineffective. That's why, well, Mark Stevens is a con man because so many people got it tossed out. Whoa, why was it not tossed out? Why was the guy still found guilty? Was he truly guilty? Did the prosecution truly meet their burden of proof? Did they hit their proof beyond a reasonable doubt with actual evidence? You have to take that into consideration. It's like looking at what happened with Mike up in Idaho. You have to have as much available data or relevant data as you can to be able to make a proper determination and have a proper conclusion. So to go in like with Mike, so let's say we use Mike in Scottsdale as an example, and we had that scumbag Herbert Pierrepan, okay? Well, he lost to the trial court and he lost his appeal, which in Arizona you get one. So you go from the municipal court or the justice court, and then you can go to the superior court, and that's it. So somebody like Shelby may look at that and say, that Mark Steven jackass, you lost both times, you loser. But you have to take it in context. You have to look at what actually happened. Mike did not have a trial. He showed up for trial. The police officer said that when he was requested by me for if he had the discovery material, said Peerpan was going to take care of that for him. So Peerpan did not do, he actually did that and covered for him. Mike made his objections. Peerpan didn't like it and refused to conduct a trial and declared that Mike wasn't there and ordered him out of the courtroom. I tried to ask a question. He started yelling at me, and that if I did not leave the courtroom, I would be arrested. So Mike was there. Peerpan lied. And when it went on appeal, the judge didn't care. And it's not a matter of, well, you made your case, Mark, and the judge didn't agree with you. No, it wasn't fair. And so that is a part of the context that you have to have that context in there. If you're going to review my work and other people using the material and trying to replicate that, you have to take the context. You have to get in and see what actually happened at the trial. It's just like when people say that people will plead guilty, or they will have they will confess, and people say, why would he? Well, he must be guilty. He confessed. But you have to have the context. Was it a minor? Did they have their parents there? Was an attorney with them? Were they beaten? Were they kept up for 18 hours straight and just wanted to get out? Were they lied to? Was psychological stress applied to them? You have to look at these things because people plead guilty or confess all the time to things that they didn't do because they're being tortured. Okay, or they're being beaten. My gosh, we reported on the show in Chicago, this actually happened. I'll have to look this up. They would fire a gun. They would have someone in a room at the police department. They would fire a gun and they would put the gun in the guy's mouth, which was proven because it burned the inside of his mouth. That's how some places get. Now, I know that's extreme, but you have to have the context. And the context where having all the data is going to give you a much better conclusion, much better understanding of what's going on. I have no idea what the hell is going on with the network here today, and I do apologize. But I think we're on a break right now because I don't have a network feed. But we'll be back. If you want to join me on the big show, it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment. Yeah, welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. I think it's on LRN.FM, but apparently there's a real problem with the network, and I don't know. So we'll do the best we can. I know we missed him on Wednesday, so we got him now today. Jared in Phoenix, welcome back.
Hello, Mark. It's Jared here.
Welcome back. What do you get? All right, so we were talking before. We ran out of time on the show, so just to bring people up to speed, you have a traffic ticket in Phoenix area?
Yes, I did, in Paradise Valley. I was pulled over, and I don't know why it's doing the echo thing because I don't have you. I was listening to you on the LRM on the live stream, and I could not get the live stream to stop streaming, and so I had to turn my phone off because I was hearing both the show and the live stream coming from. Anyhow, so now it's not echoing, so that's a good thing. Anyways, yeah, I was pulled over in Paradise Valley for passing in a no passing lane, even though I wasn't even moving more than 5 miles an hour. And then I protected all of my rights. As I told the officer who came to the window, I said, just want to let you know I'm retaining all of my rights and not foregoing any of them. And after he demanded, license and registration, as they always do, I gave him my identification verbally, and that wasn't good enough for him. So then he said, I need a government-issued ID. And I said, well, no, I don't think you do, but here's a global entry card, which is actually a TSA pre-check federal ID that has all of your information on the card, but you have to scan the card in order to get to all the information. Well, he thought it was some kind of a fraud or something, which it really kind of is, because only in the sense of it's a government-issued ID, and I don't feel that I need to have that to be a free citizen, or a free person in society. But it's not a fraud in the legal terms that we are talking about in this state of places that we're at. So, and it's a pre-check card, so it says the government, so, I don't have any outstanding warrants or anything like that. And no tickets, no nothing. So he then proceeds to, tell me I'm lying and this, that, and the other thing. And, I just didn't say much because he just kept at that I need your license. And then he said he was going to call in his backup, and said, that's fine. So then 4 more cop cars showed up.
Wow. I
was in front of an elementary school. I was literally 10 feet from the crosswalk because that was the no passing. And and I'm a very aware driver, and I had waited 45 minutes to get to the crosswalk in the car because all the parents were in the line blocking the roadway, so you couldn't go anywhere. Well, so I was next to another vehicle. As that vehicle turned into the school, I then moved forward. And as I did that, there was nobody between me and the crosswalk. Identified the crossing guard. There were no children on either side. I wasn't even moving 5 miles an hour. Well, he pulls me over for passing into no passing. And I was next to a vehicle, but they pulled into the school. So they pulled off the roadway. So anyways, so I thought he was being unreasonable, and I said, I'm protecting all my rights. And so then he started calling the cavalry, and 4 cop cars are now surrounding my car. And so I'm just like, whatever. And so then he says, well, I'm going to have to extract you out of the vehicle if you won't give me your driver's license. And I said, if you do, you'll go to jail eventually too, sort of kind of thing.
So you bluffed him.
Call in the tow truck. Say again?
So you bluffed him.
Well, I wasn't giving him my driver's license at this point. I had given him a valid government-issued ID, and he was demanding the driver's license because, well, what I believe is because then he can send me a ticket for whatever he wants, and then it's the catch and release BS that we all go through when a cop pulls you over and then takes your driver's license information, and then once they have you in their court, they've got you for the money regardless, because the judge is corrupt and the system is a failure as far as the municipal courts are concerned.
Well, they're a failure in that they're not a failure in that they do their function, which is to take money from people and to dominate them with no accountability. So they're a pretty big success that way. But
yes,
I would not suggest doing things that way. And we'll get into this. We got plenty of time, and apparently I don't have to worry about commercial breaks for this particular broadcast. So, but
nice.
Well, I don't. Hey, there must be a weather issue, something up there in New Hampshire. I don't know, but we definitely have an issue with the feed. But and that's a nice thing. I can cut all this out of the podcast. If somebody is stopped by a police officer and you have a driver's license, which is compulsory, if they ask for it, the only thing you should be saying to them is, I don't answer questions. If they ask for ID, you give them the ID and the registration and the insurance, you keep your mouth shut. If you have to, keep that stuff in a baggie and only open the window up a little bit so there's less a chance for these road pirates to accuse you of falsely stating that they smell marijuana. These cops, they have to know the reason why so many people keep their window up is because we don't want them lying and saying that they smell pot so that they have a pretext to search the car.
to yank you out. Exactly. I mean, I locked my doors, had it only open 2 inches. He asked me to roll the window down further, and I said, no, I'm comfortable with this. Thank you. And I was very polite, but I let him know I'm protecting all of my rights and I'm waiving none of them. I'm just letting you know that. And so, as we went through the motions for the next 45 minutes and the tow truck driver then shows up, he taps on my window with the tow hook and he says, if you don't, and this is all in the police report, which I then, motioned for discovery, and I got the body cam footage from the officer, which I then put into evidence and so on before this trial. And so he knocks on the window and he says, if you don't give me your driver's license, I'm going to break this window and drag you out into the street and arrest you. And I'm looking around at this elementary school is just getting let out, so there's now kids everywhere and parents and everyone, and they're, and it's like, and I'm 10 feet from the crosswalk. There's 4 cop cars all around my car because I'm just deciding to protect all of my rights and not waiving any of them. And he's already got my valid government issued ID at this point, so there's no reason for any of this. But I got
as far as he's concerned, if we look into his mindset, you were driving the vehicle. He even a passport wouldn't be sufficient. That's for identification. But according to their laws, you're supposed to have the driver's license. I personally don't, and I've been through this myself. I've had where a police officer, they called the fire department out, and they said, if you don't get out of this car, we're going to start it on fire. Even the judge was saying, what the hell was the fire department at the stop for? Because I wouldn't get out of the car. And that actually happened at a fast food place in Gilbert. And, actually it was the corner of Gilbert and Baseline that happened. So, to me, I would recommend not doing that. If you got look, it's one thing if you don't have the ID. I don't think it's a good idea to have them smash my windows, threaten to kill me, or tow the car. Yeah. Give them, it's compulsory. Give them some form of ID that you have, and keep your mouth shut. Okay. Right. All right. We're actually. Hold on 1 second. 1 second.
Go ahead.
Let me put you on hold. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. We'll try to get this squared away with everything as soon as we can, but we'll be back with Jared here in Phoenix in just a moment, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm Mark Stevens, author of Government Indicted, and glad to be with you here this January 13, 2018, live on the Liberty Radio Network, and we're doing what we can to get through. But I want to bring back, we're talking with Jared in Phoenix, and just for those tuning in, we don't want to talk to police officers. You don't have to reserve your rights. They don't give a damn, and it doesn't change the situation anyway. It's all under threat, duress, and coercion, so that negates anything anyway. Just you keep your mouth shut. There's nothing you and I can say that's going to help the situation. Unless you're a porn star, there's really nothing that we can say or do that's going to change it. They're going to give you the ticket. That's what they do. They say that they don't have quotas, but we've had cops on the show that told us that they do, and there have been many, many whistleblowers. Cops do have quotas, so they don't give a damn about your political position. They don't give a damn about you thinking that they're going to go to jail eventually for this, because they know they're not. Because what happened, Jared, is they have Michael Slager on video shooting a man in the back and planting evidence. He was not convicted. And the only reason why he was even put on trial was because it was on video. If that wasn't on video, he would have got a promotion. So, all right, so where are we here? So the cop is threatening to break the window and drag you into the street to arrest you in front of what's going to be dozens and dozens of children.
Yes, and he had tapped on the window with the tow hook. And before this, I should say, and to preface all of this, my father was a retired sergeant as a police officer. And now, so I was raised in that kind of a household, and a very reasonable father. And I felt like on the ride-alongs I had gone with him, he was a very reasonable person. And I know now why he was stuck on midnight shifts in South Central Orlando, was because he wanted to do something and to help truly in any way that he could. And he knew that writing tickets and stealing money from people was not. And so they stuck him on midnights where, he had to then deal with the lowlifes of society who will kill you if you have $5 on you, but that's just like a judge really today, except they steal a lot more money from you and they are willing to throw you in jail and take your freedom. So I understand the difficulties of the job of being a police officer if you intended on going into the job as with some kind of morality and whatever. But yeah, so he's tapping on my window. So he had already tried to, I was in a convertible, but the top was closed, and he had already tried, he stuck, and because it was rolled down 2 inches, you know how a convertible doesn't have the frame that goes around the top of the window part. And so he had reached in and started to yank on my, on the glass on the window. And I thought he was going to break it. So I started to roll the window up and I actually caught his fingers a little bit in the window, which I felt kind of justified and good about at the time. And I kind of chuckled to myself, but like, what the hell is he doing trying to break my window, over this traffic stop? And
they're willing to kill you over that traffic stop.
It's so true. I mean, there's now 4 cops surrounding my car in front of an elementary school. I have done nothing wrong, regardless of whatever he thinks I did.
Well, you had done nothing. You had done nothing wrong as far as morally or violently. You've not hurt anybody at this point. You've done nothing immoral, But to him, you are disobeying. You're disobeying him, and so regardless of the pretext of the stop. Yep. Your disobeying him is 100 times worse than whatever the pretext of the stop was.
Right, absolutely. And I could sense it in his voice and everything. He was just so angry. He was like the Maul Sith or whatever in Star Wars. It was like it was bubbling out of him, and he wanted to do nothing more than to just drag me out in the street, beat me up, and arrest me for protecting my rights. And so he knocks on the window, and I thought about it for a little while, and I'm like, well, this ain't going to do me any good to be, he's going to damage my property. He could potentially blind me by breaking the window. So I'm like, all right. So I get my license out, and before I gave it to him, I said very clearly to him, very, very clearly. And funny thing is the audio from his body cam, there was no audio. The disc that they gave me, there was no audio on it. But I know that they record audio. So I said, I will give you this, but only under protest because I'm under duress, under threat of physical harm to my property and my body. So under protest, I will give you this. And so I gave it to him. And
did he care?
He takes it.
Did he make any statements that he gave a damn and that it registered with him at all that it was on the protest?
No, he just said, thank you. He did, I think, thank me. He was, it was like, no, it did not register with him that it was under protest at all. Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. He really didn't. And to the point where, so then so he, after I'm done, he then writes me out a ticket for passing in a no passing lane, which is a civil traffic ticket. And then he writes me failure to provide identification, which is a criminal traffic violation, and it puts you in the criminal court, and I'm just like, really? So I gave you a federal ID, I gave you the correct name, my name, and I gave you my driver's license, and you're going to write, man. And he had a sergeant there too, so he had his supervisors there, and they all must have been in agreement that this was okay to falsify a complaint. So to create a false allegation against somebody that's criminal, and to do it blatantly and obviously because he knew there was nothing that was going to happen to him, because the judges are all corrupt, and they are sending these cops out to write you tickets, and they have a free pass.
Well, of course. And I mentioned to you on a show, and I was able to get a picture of Brian Strong in the last video about that Brian Strong was a pro tem judge in the East Mesa Justice Court. And that's exactly, I mean, the same thing happened to me. A cop wrote me a ticket, arrested me for not having provided ID fast enough. And that's the thing. The judges agree. Yeah, you gave him your driver's license, but you didn't do it fast enough. You didn't, like, it's failure to produce ID is the charge. So even if the system had any validity to it whatsoever, I mean, any validity, I gave him the damn ID. Whether it's under threat, duress, and coercion is not material. I didn't do, so yes, you do have a situation where the police officer falsified the record, just like Mike Livingston did all those years ago, and Hoffman and all these names that I can't remember. Our problem is, what the hell can you possibly do with that information other than filing a complaint with the city's insurance company? And I don't mean for 10 grand, but I mean for your time, let's say $1,000, and for what this cop did. He filed a false complaint against you and cost you time.
It all said and done. You know, I was in court, I think 6 different days for this.
Jeez.
And I don't know if you want me to spoiler alert, but not like anyone thinks that. So, and I could have done some things better. Everyone always can, but I didn't come to your show, your information, until after I had already filed a couple of things into the court. And I don't think. Well,
hold on one second. Let's get to what happened after. We have a top of the hour break. My name is Mark Stevens. You listen to the No State Project here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM. We will be moving into the second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the Liberty Radio Network, where we're live from the Fortified Compound for January 13, 2018. If you want to join me on the big show, it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. So don't go away. We got a lot more show to get to. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I don't know if we're live on the air right now or not. I'm just taking a shot in the dark over there. But welcome back, everybody. I'm glad to be with you here on the big show. Second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM. And if you want to join me, it's 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020. So, Frank Rizzo 3 is my username on Skype, so I can also get you on Skype. Instant message me first, and then we'll get you up on what we think is a commercial break. So, I don't know. All right, so we're gonna have to just plow ahead as if nothing's wrong. So, we're going to bring Jared back. We're talking about what happened in Paradise Valley. And I know we will get into what happened after the trial, but before, I just want you to give us some of the details, Jared, regarding what happened. What kind of issues did you raise? How did the judge and prosecutor respond? And how did the cross-examination go? I mean, what kind of discovery did you ask for?
I tried to do everything correctly as far as their system goes and what to do and when, and so I did file for discovery, and they weren't ready for that the first time. So during the arraignment, this is the first time I've ever been to court. So the very first time I didn't know it was called the arraignment, but because nobody didn't say that, I mean, so I'm there for the arraignment, and he's trying to get me to put in a plea, which I knew, if nothing else, that I wasn't going to plea because I had nothing to plea to, and that I was innocent until proven guilty. And so that's kind of what I hung my hat on. And now I, like a lot of people out there, have not had to deal with stuff like this. And so I started learning, as though I was a child and had that I was completely ignorant of what was right as far as their court systems, what's correct and and what is arguable.
Okay, but Jed, I gotta jump in. You got to get us more to the meat of this, and not so much the history on how you got there. But walk us through some of the issues that you did raise, and we can discuss what happened. So
okay, so I when the judge asked me how I plead, I said I don't. I said, am I innocent until proven guilty? And he said, not here, not right now. This is just a plea. You know, you're here to enter a plea. And I said, well, I don't, because I'm innocent. So he then said, well, I'll enter a plea for you. So I did object to that. And there's audio recordings of all this that I kept on my phone. So I objected to it, and I said that I object to you making this plea for me when I'm innocent, and blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter. It just says, okay, well, here's your next day to come for the pretrial conference with the attorney, the prosecution for the state. And so I can't remember if at that point I had raised the question of, well, who are you working for? But I may have, because I did in the pretrial conference anyway. So I come back for the pretrial conference.
Okay, but wait, one thing at a time. So let's go. You do know now that it's always a mistake that when they ask you to plea, it's always a mistake to say that you're not going to. I mean, have you seen the video and the article I did about that? And for those who are new, the reason why we do that is because we're trying to stop them from escalating this matter. We don't want it to go to trial. We're trying to de-escalate and get the damn thing tossed out. And when we refuse to plea, of course, what they do is to use that as an excuse to plead not guilty for you and escalate it. Okay, so let's keep that in mind.
Which is exactly what he did. Yes. So... yeah, and if anyone has not seen, and I had not seen Mark's YouTube videos on this, which is very well done, and but I hadn't seen that. So he did escalate it. He brings it to the pretrial conference, and still I had not seen your information. And I did file at that point 2 motions, one motion to dismiss, and I had filed a discovery request for the officers. Well, they weren't ready for it, so they said, well, we're going to have another pretrial conference, and so they make me come into court again. And
okay, but the thing is, Jerry, and for those listening, that the pretrial conference, it sucks to go to court, but the pretrial conference it's not a hearing, and it's usually not in front of a judge unless there's a reason and you request to go in front of the judge. It's your opportunity to go toe-to-toe with the prosecutor. It's much more rare for them to. They're a lot more bold with you there. That's usually where they're making threats against you. That's usually where they're trying to use some psychological leverage on you. That, look, if you take this to trial, I'm going to have to, pile on the charges. That crap. So,
well, the funny thing is that the prosecution wasn't even in the room for the pretrial conference because the judge was. And I said, well, when I raised the question of the body cam, the prosecution was doing his pretrial conference and wheeling and dealing his money deals with everyone else in the back room. And so I said, well, where's the evidence from the body cam that shows that I and the reason why I was in front of a judge is because it's criminal. The failure to provide ID. So is what I assume because I don't know, but whatever. So there I am, and I'm asking the judge, where's, the body cam footage? And he says, well, I guess I'll ask the prosecutor. So then the clerk runs out and goes and grabs the prosecutor. And I asked and said, and whatever. And so again, I know I could have had more steps to wheel and deal with to get it dismissed and thrown out because wasn't going to pay a damn thing if I didn't have to because I didn't do anything wrong. But so he says, okay, fine. Well, we'll send you a copy of the body cam footage and you'll have it at your address. So they then took down my address, which they had already from, of course, the 2 different valid identifications that I had given them. And then they proceeded to send it to the wrong address. So the next time I got to court was then, let's see here, it was the second pretrial conference, the next time I got to court, which I then had but I didn't get to see it until I got there because they say they sent it to the wrong address. It was returned on the postage that was sent, yet they had the right address. So they had 1 digit off. How does that happen? I don't know, but I just think they didn't want me to see this stuff until I got there that day.
Well, in Arizona, they like to do that, and I guess a lot of other places they do. So the less time you have to prepare, of course. But so at this second pretrial conference, since you didn't know about my material, what else?
Take the opportunity to let people the way that I should have done it, because I know I made mistakes, and this is such a criminal organization that is truly going on the municipal level courts, and in all the courts, the judges. I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of, sending cops out to make money for you, and then having quotas, and some departments do have quotas and some don't, but it matters not. It's the judges and the attorneys and the legislators and all of them that are in on it. It's changing the fabric of our legal system, really.
Well, I don't know about that. I think the system has always been pretty corrupt. This is a lot of the same of what they've been doing, from the beginning. It's just now because of the internet, we're able to be more aware of what they're doing. And so, when they're pulling this crap and people have cell phones, so many people have cell phones, you can then get it posted online and people can see it. But I can't even imagine how bad things must have been in the South in the 30s for someone who wasn't white.
Right.
Oh
my God.
It would just be all. I mean, then you go back even to the 50s, and it was where you had cops going out and participating in the lynches, and it was horrible. So we just have more documentation now. Like I mentioned earlier, if Michael Slager had committed his killing, if it was the same circumstances and it was 25 years ago, he would have gotten a promotion. Nobody would have known about that. There are so many incidents where if we'd never know about it, but the fact that cell phones are everywhere now.
That's so true, and the reason why nobody would have known about it is because he never would have been held accountable, that cop, because the judge never would have held him accountable, because the judge knows that they basically have given them carte blanche, the police, to do what they want as long as they're bringing in money, and then they let them off on anything they may have done wrong.
Hey, the bumpers are back. Hey, well, hold on 1 second. We're back with the bumpers. I appreciate that. That really helps. So I was getting All right. So hold on. We're talking with Jared in Phoenix, going through his adventure in Paradise Valley and that corrupt court system. Just as corrupt as anybody else. And so we'll be back with him in just a few moments. We'll also be taking your calls, 218-632-9399. We'll be back in just a moment, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Mark Stevens, author of Government Indicted. Glad to be with you here for these 3 hours of Anarchy Radio. Anarchy meaning no rulers. We reject the idea that we need a ruling class to provide services, that it is okay to lie, steal, kill, and cheat other people if for no other reason you call yourself a government. The principle of do no harm applies to everyone, regardless of whatever stupid title they may give themselves. You want to join the big show, it's 218-632-9399. Passcode is 2020. I want to bring back Jared. All right, Jared, so let's continue with this. Do we have...
Yep.
Okay, so where were you?
There we go. Well, let's see. We were at the second pretrial, I believe, where... let's see. That's when...
Okay, so you're at the second pretrial. The reason why you had to have a second pretrial was to give the prosecution more time to get you some the dash cam or something, or the
yes, the body cam.
The body cam, that's it.
Right, the body cam and whatever else. I had made a motion to dismiss, which of course he then denied, and then whatever else I had done, I had made an affidavit, which is not a good thing to do. And please use my opportunity wherever I've made mistakes to help others to learn how to deal with these criminals in the court systems, because I didn't know, and I had to learn as though I was learning it all for the first time. So, the Patronut, as people call it, it's at least people are trying something, but when there is found to be something that does not work over and over and over, then people posting that it does work is just counterproductive to having a free society with no government, So
yeah, well, there's a lot of people that are making money from it, and some people may honestly be misled. But there's certain things that and then you have the trolls. I mean, I'll get no one is immune from this. You get the damn trolls. You get the people who are insisting that all they do is write that they are the flesh and blood man, and that they do not consent to the proceedings, and the judges run scared. They actually say they're scared to deal with me. No, they're not. These guys have a small army at their behalf. They are not afraid to deal with you.
I did that too.
Yeah, well, we don't want to. So in a nutshell, with your motion to dismiss, you were raising legal issues or legal interpretation. You weren't doing it stating from a standpoint that the prosecution did not have sufficient evidence to support their claims.
Well, I don't know exactly. No, I was not saying that they do not have, which I wish I had been. But what I was, I don't believe it was too counterproductive, because my affidavit was simply that I was not driving and in a commercial capacity, but it was very detailed, but it was, it was not. I should have gone from the very, very, very beginning of the applicability. Show me the evidence that the applicability of their laws and their Constitution applies to me just because I'm physically within the geographic boundary of Paradise Valley. And if I had done that, I think things may have turned out a little bit different, but probably not, because, I mean, if you're looking at a judge who you've given 3 forms of ID, verbal, TSA pre-check card that's federal, that has all of the proper, height, weight, and everything, but they have to scan it, and see, they didn't know how to use that or didn't know it was there. So that makes me a criminal because they're unable to do their job right. So then giving them the driver's license that they required after threats of bodily harm to my property and myself and getting arrested. So then I had given him the ID. He thanks me for it. And then in the body cam footage that I later get, months later, there is my ID on his clipboard. The body cam's like center of his chest or something like that. He was a motorcycle cop. And it has my identification on his clipboard as he's filling this ticket out for failure to provide identification. It's mind-boggling to me and any other person who has lived in this.
Okay, don't know what happened to Jared. Completely lost his audio there. So we'll see what we can do about getting him back, since we'll be going to a break here soon. Wow. From all sides here today. I do apologize for that. So the problem, too, with not attacking the prosecution's facts and the factual basis to support their claims is that using legal arguments and legal interpretation, they can actually be responsive and comply with due process. And that's bad. We don't want them. See, a big part of this is throwing a huge monkey wrench in the works so that they cannot possibly comply with due process. They can say they can, yeah, sure. But they can't actually, there's no evidence to show that they actually did. That's why I talk about we make it so difficult for them to make it look good that they toss it out. And making legal arguments that I was traveling. I wasn't driving, I was traveling. The statute says, the statute means that they don't care. What is it? The most repeated line you have on anarchy or voluntarist radio? They don't care. That's probably the three most common three-word phrase. They don't care. They don't give a damn. And it gives them an opportunity to be responsive. Look, we heard your argument. We disagree. You got to convince a judge that your argument is right, that your interpretation of the law is right. So they just go look at their code. They look at what the other judges have said higher up on the political pecking order, and they say, no, we all disagree with you. It doesn't mean that if you just attack the factual foundation of the prosecution's claim that they're going to fall over themselves agreeing with you. No, but they cannot be responsive. They cannot actually cite. So they can lie, and it's easy to show. They can lie like they did up in Massachusetts and say, well, the evidence is on the complaint. They can't cite it. That's a big difference here. And when you use legal interpretations, they can then give you a court case, stare decisis. Well, the courts have already ruled on this issue of law. But they can't necessarily do that when it comes to an issue of fact. And no jurisdiction is not a pure issue of law requiring no evidence because they need your physical location. We're up against the break here at the No State Project, so we'll be back with your calls in just a few moments. The number is 218-632-9399, but the passcode is 2020. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. And again, if you want to join me here on the big show, 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399 is the number. And the passcode is 2020 with the hashtag or # and Skype me on Frank Rizzo 3. That's Frank Rizzo with the number 3. Then we've got Jared back. Jared, do we have you back?
Yes, you do. Sorry, I don't know how that happened, but
that's okay. So let's try to finish with this segment because we're getting a long line of callers. Okay, so we were just discussing some things we don't want to do, and as far as having the affidavit, unless you want to take a burden of proof on yourself and you can show a legitimate reason for doing that, I would avoid doing the affidavit. The circumstances are usually pretty limited with what we deal with on the show where an affidavit would be appropriate.
Would this have been one because I did provide identification and they provided the proof in video form that I did, but then still.
No, I don't think it needs to be done by affidavit. It's just you have that video evidence. And you could just use that in a motion to dismiss and have the evidence as video that the police officer filed a false report. And the evidence is right there. You don't need to say that in an affidavit. I don't think you need to say that in an affidavit. You just look. I put it in a motion. This is what he's a liar. The man committed a felony to charge me with a misdemeanor. And I think maybe part of that has to do with, and again, I don't know if that's what they're thinking here, because the judges tend to just give them a pass and prosecute you anyway and convict you. But there's that old police line that you may beat the charge but not the ride. So it's a matter of, well, you might eventually get this tossed out, but we're going to cost you time, money, and energy, and you're going to do some time overnight. And so maybe that's how he's looking at it. Just to be a complete scumbag. Well, no, that would have, if he had actually carried out his threat. But just to be a douche and to put you through this. Hey, maybe he knows that the judges are so, they'll back me up. It's not like his partner or sergeant saying, you know that's going to get tossed out. No, it's not.
I revealed that in court, actually, when I was cross-examining the police officer, because I was trying to get out of him I asked him if he was under subpoena to be here today. But first I asked him if he was there, if he was in the court here voluntarily, which he said he was. And I said, so are you under subpoena then? And he said, yes, he was. And I said, so what would happen to you if you didn't show up to court? And the judge revealed for me that he would have done nothing had he not shown up. So
some nice double standard there.
Oh, right, exactly. I mean, so it's up to the judge, and even though if I'm under subpoena to be in a court, I can get thrown in jail for not going, but a judge, you know, they have complete control whether or not a cop is guilty of anything really out on the street. I mean, if it's in these Admiralty, I don't even know if that is what it's called.
They're courts run by criminals. It doesn't change anything to label a common law, Admiralty, maritime. It's a statutory court. No kidding.
Right.
So, well, let's get to what we can do as far as cleaning this mess up. So you've been convicted.
Yeah.
Did you file for post-conviction relief yet?
No, I what I did file was to appeal. I filed for an appeal, and yet I haven't turned in the I forget what it's called, but the document that lays out basically all the things, even though they don't really look at any new evidence or whatever. But so what is that for relief?
Well, you could do your appeal, and you can still do the post-conviction relief. The post-conviction relief is where you set forth all the errors that the judge made, which, if he grants it, would moot the appeal. And you may actually get a hearing on that. But here I would set forth that, you know, because you didn't do the best either. You did okay from what you've said.
Right.
I mean, your cross-examination, they probably did not deny you cross-examination, so you don't have that. But so you're looking at a lot of the issues that you would have initially raised had had you found the material before. You can always challenge jurisdiction, and you can put in there that the prosecution, and through none of their discovery and through none of the testimony given by the police officer, did they provide any evidence whatsoever to support their claim of jurisdiction.
Right, which I did bring up every single time I saw that judge. I brought and I was actually he threatened me with contempt because as the trial started, I basically said in my opening statement that there still has been no evidence that the applicability of the codes that are set forth here that they apply to me. And the prosecution has shown no evidence of this, and we shouldn't even be at this point. So I kept bringing that up, and I wouldn't let him move forward. And then he threatened me with contempt of court. And so at that point, I kept my mouth shut because I'm realizing at this point that it's just, they're going to railroad me either way. And so now I'm thinking, well, I should have been preparing for a trial, I guess, worst case scenario. But so then I'm, looking through the material, and I want to say Stow, I don't know if that's the way you say his name, but he's on Skype, and he was really probably the biggest help, along with some other guys that are on there. But if you have anything like this, find the Skype group because they will help you. And I was a lot more prepared than I would have been going in there without those guys. But this was all the day before, so you can only do so much. So. But I did. The judge, he was gonna, have me with contempt of court if I didn't let them move forward, I guess, or just keep my mouth shut. So, I got.
Okay.
Sorry.
We gotta make it quick because we're almost out of time for the segment.
Okay, go. End it however you like.
Well, what I'd like to do, I can send you a template for. And get with me off air for that. I can send you a template. It's actually written for Arizona for post-conviction relief. Unfortunately, you don't have all the issues that we would typically have, because at no time did the judge deny you cross-examination. He probably allowed you to ask a lot of questions. You just weren't asking the best questions.
Right. He did. Well, I did ask. I got the prosecution to say that he was not qualified to make a legal conclusion.
Oh, well, there you go.
Officer.
Did you move?
Well, I did, and then so I moved to have the witness's testimony stricken from the record, and he turned it down, whatever the hell he called it.
So he turned it down. Okay, so that's a pretty big one. That should be in the post-conviction relief, that the prosecution knowingly put a witness on a stand that was incompetent. He had to have known that before. So did the judge then, after that, did he end the cross-examination? Pretty much, yeah. He said if you continue with this line of questioning, you'll be in contempt. Okay, so he threatened you. Okay, so there you've got him threatening you for defending yourself. I would say that was a pretty bad error. Did he allow you an opportunity to put on a case?
Yes, I believe so. As far as he said that I could, testify against myself, essentially, if I wanted to, which I thought about it, but, I didn't, because
Good.
I just, yeah.
Yeah, you should never never be testifying against yourself. All we're doing is showing that the prosecution has no evidence to support their claim. So we should not be testifying. So, all right, because a lot of times when we go in and they do, and kudos on getting the impeachment from the play. That's always good to have. That's evidence right there of a rigged game. When the prosecute, and they do it pretty much every time. Just for people who are new too, when the prosecutor says their own witness is not competent to give legal conclusions, this animal was willing to break your window and drag you out of the car and handcuff you in front of children. And based on a legal conclusion, his own lawyer said he wasn't competent or qualified to make. How is that not evidence of a dishonest, crooked, rigged game? Come on, so that's something that should definitely be in the post-conviction relief. The prosecutor committed misconduct by knowingly putting an incompetent witness on the stand. And then, of course, you had the fact that the judge still accepted his testimony that you violated the law when he wasn't qualified to say.
Right. It's crazy because then I got him to say that there was no injury in the traffic stop. There was the witness said there was no injury, and I said, well, I mean, it's crazy because we actually
don't need that. I mean, the injury thing is not something you even need to get into. But
the only reason why I was going there was because the judge was, he had denied that. So I'm like thinking, okay, well, how do I show that this guy, if he's making legal conclusions on the street, how do I show him outside of what I've already done to have the prosecution to get his witness, his testimony stricken from the record so that they can't.
But you already did. We have to go to a break here in a moment, and we may even actually be at break now. But you already did what you needed to do. You've gotten the prosecution to object to his own witness. So, hey, I appreciate the call. Get with me off air.
Thank you.
And we can get you the post-conviction relief. My name is Mark Stevens. We'll be back here on the Liberty Radio Network in just a moment. If you want to join me, it's 218-632-9399, passcode 2020, and the pound sign. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm Mark Stevens, author of Government Indicted, website, of course, markstevens.net. If you're being attacked by a bureaucrat, check out Government Indicted, which the book has a complete model for dealing with these people. And if you see at markstevens.net the success stories, we've had many people use the book and the tactic to go in and successfully defend themselves against attack on 3 continents, including Israel. So, which reminds me, I appreciate all the continued support of the show. Can't do the show. actually can't do the show without some of the support that we get, so I do appreciate that. You can support the show at markstevens.net. My sales page is markstevens.sales.com. So I do appreciate that. And the number here is 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. We're going to go to Alex in Los Angeles now. Welcome back to the show, Alex.
Oh, hello. I wasn't expecting to speak today. How are you?
I'm doing well. What do you got for us today?
Well, nothing much. I figured I'd kind of just articulate a position so everyone can kind of understand. All these courts that everyone thinks they're going to aren't courts. They're all privately owned trading companies using private copyrighted law. For example, Titles 1 through 53 or 54, however many titles there are now in the United States Code, are all private copyright belonging to West Publishing Company and American Law Institute. American Law Institute operates out of Philadelphia, and Nina Hamster holds all the copyrights to American Law Institute. That includes the Uniform Commercial Code, Statement of the Law, First
but
and
Alex,
Third Series.
Alex, the copyright is not on the text. It's on the format and how it's in the book. It's not on the actual text itself. The text itself is public law and can't be copyrighted.
It's all private copyright, Mark. It's just opinions of other people.
I get that, but it's kind of erroneous. It's erroneous to say that some woman holds the copyright to American, or United States government laws and regulations. I think it is accurate to just see them as men and women forcing us to pay them and seeing them as private companies. Yes, because it makes it easier to understand and grasp what you're really dealing with, because it takes the veneer or the facade of legitimacy away from them, because they're just people. It's just not accurate to then turn around and say that their rules are actually copyrighted, because the text of them are not. And there are court cases that deal with that. And yes, I know they can lie, but it doesn't really even help us, even if it was copyrighted. I mean, have you ever seen a situation where the copyright holder actually filed a claim against somebody because they copied their laws in a legal pleading?
Yeah. No, I see what you're talking about. All I'm trying to articulate, not as a defense point of view, but just what really all of this is. Everyone going into these courts saying, I'm the free man on the land, your statutes don't apply to me. These people don't care. They don't care what you have to say or what you want. They have profit margins that they need to make, and they're always trying to hit them. Now, I just wanted to say, I've heard people on the show talking about, well, they're saying I contracted with the state. I never signed anything, nor is there a contract with 2 wet ink signatures on it. I have a case here called Pipeline versus Marathon, 102 Superior Court 385-58, that says it is impossible to prove jurisdiction exists absent substantial nexus with the state. Such a voluntary subscription to a license, basically that's what they're referring to. They're saying that the license is how you contracted with them. Not an expressed contract, but an implied contract.
No.
Like, for example, you walk into a store, sit down, and you order food, and you leave without paying. It's an implied contract in a sense that you have to pay for it. Basically what I'm getting at is if you get a license, you're now asking permission to use their public roadways. And the minute you put registration and a license plate on your automobile, you turn it into a vehicle. This is the kind of nonsense that these people are using on a day-to-day basis.
No. There's a lot to unpack there. Okay, so let's just try not to cover so much ground. Okay, first of all, I agree that when you go into a restaurant, there's an implied yes, because you're going and you're accepting the services, and the facts bear that out. And since there's probably prices on the wall, it is the evidence is pretty good, direct and circumstantial, that you were, when you went in there, you knew you had to pay, and that so you can show that there's you're all agreeing to the same thing. If you come into this place of business and you eat, then it's understood you're going to pay. It's not the same thing with a driver's license. The driver's license is compulsory, so there's never been there's no evidence to show that it is contractual or that they consider it contractual in any way. So you either do it or you go to jail. And I don't think that they are reclassifying your vehicle to go that it's not considered a motor vehicle or even a vehicle unless you register it. I think that that's just... yeah, there's no, they're not, it goes into this whole thing of, well, they have to trick you into being a person. No, they define you as a natural person. A natural person is not a corporation. They're talking about a flesh and blood, a real person, not a corporate person, which is why they'll always include corporation in that definition. So
that's true, because the way I've always been led to look at it is there's a complete separation between fundamental principles of law. There's natural law or immutable law, and then there's positive law, which is man-made law. And as far as I'm aware, one man can't impose his positive law on another man without actually implying some kind of corporate fiction, like a United States citizen. I actually pulled this off congressional record from the Los Angeles Library, and it says, here it is right here. So, Congressional Record of June 13th, 1967, pages 15,641 to 15,646. And it says that a United States citizen is a civilly dead entity operating as a co-trustee and co-beneficiary for the public charitable trust.
Oh, good Lord. What, this is still being read as if it was valid?
Yeah, I know, right? I find it amazing that these people try and impose these kind of tactics. Steal your time and your labor.
Yeah, that's something I haven't heard in a long time. It's just like with there was one that goes back more than 20-something years where the claim is made that the United States Supreme Court stated that preamble citizens are not subject to legislative enactments. And you read the case, and it's an actual case that they're citing. There's nothing in there remotely saying that. And that was one of the things that really started my road down to anarchy, and seeing that even these patriot people were just as full of crap. I remember saying to the guys, like, you put this in quotes, you're selling this for $600. It was some guy out of Minnesota that they were upset because they wanted me to pay the $600. I said, hell no, you're filing this oath of office of citizenship you're filing it with the county recorder. So I went down and paid a few bucks and got a copy of it. And I started going down to ASU and I was checking the citations. Almost the entire document was fabricated. I couldn't believe it. It was Citizens for a Constitutional Minnesota. And this guy was selling it. I swear this is true. $600.
That's how they make money.
He said, exactly. How can you, the citizen is the highest office in the country. How can you expect to be a citizen if you don't have an oath of office? So he sold this phony oath of office, and that quotation was in there. I was like, this is not true. So they said, well, we'll take the quotations out because that's what they're getting. No, that's not what they're saying. They're not saying that at all. So I'm agreement. I'm floored that people still, to this day, will read that stuff and take it as true without doing any research on the citations. Yeah, do the research on the citations.
Yeah, no one wants to do the work themselves. They see these little quotes off the internet and they just take them for truth. And then when they get into a court of law, they wonder what happened and why it went the wrong way.
Yeah, it's something. I remember I took a direct quote, and this is, again, the problem with quotes, even when they're accurate. A direct quote from the Supreme Court of the United States about Brown versus Texas. It was a unanimous decision. Brian Strong, it's in the first book. He's the one that snapped this at me. When I read that from the court case, the opinion, not the dicta, the opinion, the ruling, that to arrest somebody simply to ascertain their identity is a violation of the Fourth Amendment and illegal. And he says, that's your opinion. And I said, no, that's the Supreme Court. That's the opinion of every member of the Supreme Court, you jackass. This guy is still walking free.
Verbatim, they don't care.
They don't give a damn. And so I mean, I learned that the hard way, and I was using a citation that was real. And people, now that we're on the internet, look, when I did this 20 years ago. I had to get my butt down to the ASU Law Library. And I had to go and actually look at which I love libraries, so it's not that big a deal. But I had to actually look these citations up, and then I had to I'd make copies. And you'd show them, this isn't true. This constitutional, Citizens for a Constitutional Minnesota guy is scamming people. Here it is, right here. Yep. And all they did was take the quotes off and continue selling that thing for $600. So anyway, we're at the top of the hour break. Did you want to stay on? Did you have more?
Well, actually, I don't know. Have you ever seen?
Well, I got to put you on hold. Just hold on. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project, going into the third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the Liberty Radio Network. We'll be back with your calls in just a moment, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. Third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio here on the big broadcast, NLRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. It's January 13th, 2018. And so let's get back to Alex. Because we got a lot of other calls to get to. Alex, so what was the last thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was looking at a court case, Barron versus Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. I was reading the case law on it, but it looks like you can't really use the Constitution to defend yourself in a court of law because, technically speaking, you're not a party to it. And it's also reaffirmed again in Paddleford Fay and Company versus Mayor of Alderman of the City of Savannah, and that was Georgia, 14-438-520.
Yeah, I think it had to do with the particular claim of the Constitution. People go in and prevail all the time by using the due process clause. So that sharply conflicts with whatever that case may actually say. And I don't know if it actually says that or not. I'd have to verify that. So if you can email me, markstevens@mail.com, email me the citation. Let me look that up. But I have seen reference to Paddleford many, many times. It's one of those that goes back a long way. It's just like Hagens versus Levine. Well, real quick, Hagens versus Levine is a good case to cite as far as jurisdiction, but most of the citations you see on the internet are not in that case. It's not, but it is a jurisdictional case. But just make sure that you look up the citation, look up the case, and use the actual quote from the case. So I'll have to look up that Paddleford one again. So.
Also, Barron versus the Mayor of City Council of Baltimore kind of goes into the same thing. It's 32 U.S. 243. Are these shows archived by any chance?
Yes, you can go to markstevens.net and you can hear all the broadcasts. And I should be able to get the audio up here today. So.
And listen, I had a quick question. I guess what's your stance on all of these courts being municipal corporations? Have you ever heard that before?
That the court itself is a municipal corporation?
Yeah, it's just a municipal corporation. Actually, you know what? Let's go a little bit further with it. You've probably heard people saying that the United States is a corporation. Have you ever seen any reference to that?
The United States, the Supreme Court has ruled that, just like all states, that the United States government is a body politic and a body corporate. All governments are all states are considered body politic and body corporate. There's nothing necessarily, there's nothing more evil about that as far as them being corporations than any corporation, being that they have the actors have no real responsibility, and it's difficult to pierce the corporate veil in this fiction that, it wasn't me, it was my alter ego, the corporation. So,
Yeah.
No. Are the courts operating as separate corporations? Yeah, I'd have to see some evidence of that. There would be articles of incorporation, or if it's like a municipal corporation. There's going to be a charter. So the court would have to be operating from. So let's say, for example, you'd have to have like the Mesa City Court operating under a separate individual corporate charter than the Mesa City Charter. So, and that's you don't have, if you got a corporation, they're acting as a corporation, then there's going to be a paper trail. There's going to be some paperwork. So somebody just needs, if they think the courts are operating as separate corporations, just produce the corporate paperwork, and we'll take a look at it. We'll see. But until that time, I'm calling foul.
Gotcha. I'll send you some things to look at. But like, I had some buddies pull some files for the court in my area over here in Van Nuys. These courts have a pick code, SIC code, cage code. They have DUNS numbers. It looks like they are just operating as private corporations. And like, what I'm getting at is, I don't understand how they can just continue to like impose their dominion on us, because they tell me that like my parking violations apply to me because I was in the city of Los Angeles. And when I look into it, the city of Los Angeles is a 12-page document inside Sacramento. So how can that even be physically possible that I can be inside their jurisdiction?
Well, they're saying that you're physically in their territorial jurisdiction, that this corporation...
But that's a physical impossibility.
No. They're saying that you're within their territory, the territory that they own and control. Now, a question is whether, in fact, there's any evidence to support that. And they do control it, though. Do they own it? No, they stole the money and took it by conquest. But to answer your question, how can private companies like this, which I agree, I see them as just private individuals, how can they get away with doing what they're doing? Massive propaganda and public relations, and they have a prison system. So they have people believing that they are not a criminal organization. And that's part of why we do the show, is to bring out the evidence and educate people and show them out of their own mouths that, yes, they are in fact criminals. So I do have to move on now.
The crazy thing about the prison thing you just mentioned, I looked into that. It looks like the Corrections Corporation of America controls the majority of those prisons, and they're like privately owned. I even looked at their trust indenture agreement. They're owned by the United States Postal Service, Walmart, a whole bunch of private companies.
Well, sure.
It's kind of crazy. But listen, not to take up your time too much, I know you got to go, but I'm really big on the Internal Revenue Service and the scam that they're kind of pulling. Have you ever looked at the old 6209 coding manual? They switched it over to the ADP and the IDRS, which is like the Integrated Data Retrieval System. They label all 1099s, all W-2s, and all W-4s in a Class 5 tax bracket, which is a gift and estate tax. It's like you're gifting them this income tax that they're allegedly saying you owe them at the end of the year. You're literally gifting it to them.
Yeah, it's just like when people used to get the individual master file decoded. They always changed the codes, and nothing ever really came of it. So there, I would say there's probably a mistake in the reading and the interpretation of it. So.
Gotcha. Last thing, check out volume 19 of Corpus Juris Secundum 843. It says that the United States Incorporation is a foreign corporation with respect to the state, and then they go into further definition how there's a fictional federal state within a state, like in the several states. It's kind of crazy, but
yeah.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's just more stuff that goes back into the it's been going around since the 90s, and it's not. Yeah, I'm going to bring someone up here. I would have preferred to do this on a break, but we were bringing Alex back. But we're going to bring Brett up, and he's been waiting for a while. Don't worry, we're going to do our best to get to everybody. So hopefully Brett's going to pick up here. See, this is why I don't like doing it during a broadcast. Okay, do we have Brett?
We do.
Hey,
how's it going, Mark?
It's going well. Brett, where are you calling from?
From Canada, eh?
Oh, how's it going, eh?
Not bad there, Jerky.
Hey, don't have me come up there after you eat it, tough guy.
So we had a conversation maybe about a month ago, and I was facing a pretrial. And I had some news, I guess, if you want to call it that. So I showed up at court, and they kept putting me off for a couple hours, and I noticed. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay. So I showed up at court, and the district attorney was there. He finally showed up himself. As I told you last time, he had sent a few henchmen in the times before that. The judge called me up and asked if I was ready to proceed, and I said absolutely. The district attorney didn't say anything. He just sat there with a quiet face. He made no attempts to try and talk to me before. So the judge said, are you ready to proceed today? I said, in fact, I am. And I started walking forward. I said, do I have the right to plead guilty? And at that point, she gave the prosecutor the look, those eyes, you know, like say something now type thing. So he stood up and, you know, cut me off and said, well, you know, at this point, we feel that, or I just ran into some new information and the cop is not willing to testify to those charges. So we are willing to put a plea deal on the table here. And then I simply said, you know, if that is the case, then I would need that on record, what the deal is, you know, because I tried to slow it down to my pace. They were trying to make things really quick, as they always do. So I tried to slow it down and I said, what would that deal be? And then she said, you know, would you be willing to talk to the prosecutor? And I said, well, you know, we kind of already went down that road. I met him at a coffee shop and he said he was going to dismiss the charges. And when we came back here, we ended up having a
well, just hold on 1 second. We're up against the break, so just hold tight. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No Stay Project here on LRN.FM. We'll be back with Brett from Canada, in just a moment, and we'll do our best to get to everybody before the broadcast is over. So, and anyone we miss, we'll get to on Wednesday. So we'll be back in just a moment. Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project. Remember, Libertopia, we'll be doing a show live from Libertopia on May 3rd. Through May 6th, we'll be doing it in San Diego. So go to libertopia.org today and get signed up for that. I'd like to see you out there. Hopefully, we will, well, I think we'll definitely have a blues jam going with the boys from Barnwell Swift there at the Living Tea Brewing Company in beautiful Oceanside, California. I mean, you are 1 block away from the water, so it's pretty damn nice. So, hopefully we'll get another show over there real soon, but I want to bring back, we're talking with Brett in Canada, and what part of Canada can I don't remember.
It was Northern Ontario.
All right. So so pick up where you left off.
Okay, so I showed up the last time me and you had spoke on your show. I was just going into a pre-trial. Anyway, so I showed up to court. The judge called me up and she asked if I was ready to move forward. I started walking towards the bench and I said, yes, do I have the right to plead guilty here today? At which point she looked at me, smiled, almost as if she had heard your show. She looked over at the district attorney and gave him these weird eyes. He stood up. I would like to add he was wearing baggy jeans, some Timberland boots, which were pink, half a cut-off dress shirt with an untied tie, slouching in his chair. So he sat up with a pouty look on his face and he said, well, after all this, I believe the cop informed me that he is not willing to testify to the charges. So we are willing to put a plea deal on the table. And I looked at the judge and I said, after all of this, and I said, the last appearance I was at, or the last hearing, or whatever we call it, I said, me and the prosecutor had met, and the prosecutor had agreed to throw it out. And behind my back, he had showed up in court right after lunch and tried to set a trial date when I wasn't even in the room. And at which point I came in and caught them, and we had that, you know, sort of an argument type thing. And that's when I had asked for the evidence of jurisdiction, and it was put off again. Anyways, so at which point I came back and I said, you know, ma'am, I don't trust the prosecution. So if this can be done on record, that would be excellent. You know, those are the only conditions I would talk to the prosecutor. And she said, I believe we could arrange that and have it on record and have it recorded and have one of the court mediators there. And I said, okay, well, that would be great. So we went and met, and I don't know, he asked for $1,000 fine and a conditional discharge and some more shit. And then, you know, we had gone back and forth a little bit, and then they offered 20 hours and a conditional discharge. And as soon as I had finished 20 hours, you know, the order was done and the charge gets discharged. So I agreed to that. You know, I was going in there looking for effective damage control. And instead of having to drive down there another 9 hours and maybe face another motions hearing and maybe 2 other court dates after that, I took the deal, you know, feeling that it was a win on my side, or an effective defense, shall we say.
Oh, we definitely like the damage control, so we talk about here. So you said 9 hours. Where was this court from Ontario? If it was 9 hours away.
Well, I'm up near Sault Ste. Marie, and it's near Toronto, so it's damn far. It's near Barrie almost.
I don't. Okay, I don't know the first reference that you said. Say that again. The first town, or
yeah, it would be like Sault Ste. Marie. It'd be like the North Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh, geez.
Exactly. You know, right where Lake Superior, or right at the end of Lake Michigan.
I gotcha.
And then imagine Detroit, so like about that distance.
Yeah. Oh no, I got it now. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is quite a yeah, that's a hell of a ride. Well, hey, at least you know.
Believe me. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Mark. I just saying, believe me, I would have gone for the full dismissal if I didn't think that I would have to have I didn't even hand in my motions yet. I hadn't even handed in my motions because I was playing the game with them type thing. We had put up a defense. I know that's one of your first. That's one of your first things, and that's. I guess that's where I screwed up, because I didn't get in touch with you until like a Saturday night, and I had court on a Monday morning, so I didn't have any of my motions and stuff like that. But it turns out I didn't need them.
Well, yeah. Hey, sometimes it's the best thing, and when you're looking at traveling 9 hours, I mean, I had someone in California that they said, well, we can afford to make a 9-hour trip one time. And you know, because they are so reluctant to allow us to do it on the phone, you know, if they just let us do it on the phone more often, yeah, you know, a lot more people could probably challenge it, which of course is probably one of the reasons. Well, it's one of the few reasons they have for not allowing it. I think part of it has to do, of course, because they can't threaten you as effectively, but two, more people would challenge it. Plus, you know, and they probably know that when someone is on the phone, they can have somebody helping them, which they otherwise were not able to do. I mean, I used to do that all the time when we have telephonic hearings, and I would be on a different line. And so I would say, let's say if you were doing it, I would be on a different line, and I could, you know, help you with objections and whatnot the whole time, and only you could hear me. So I'm sure they're aware of that, and that's another reason why they would frown on it. Because heaven forbid you should have it going against a prosecutor that's got an unlimited budget. Heaven forbid you should have somebody helping you.
This, you know, and I had spoken to you the last time, and you'd asked me how in the hell it got to 8 arraignments. Well, you know, it was a lot of jurisdiction and free man of the land videos at first, and not claiming the name, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how they never got any forward progression on me. But I never really understood the concept until, you know, I started watching some of your videos, and I started talking with, you know, Kevin the Dude and Stahl. A few other guys from there really helped me out. Huge support system. I got to say, Mark, you know, the support system you have on the NSP is very, very helpful. However, you know, there are a few guys in there that veer away oftenly, and you know, and that's normal in all groups. But you know, there's some dudes in there that are some very, very solid support, and I just appreciate that big time from all of you guys, including you, Mark. Thank you.
I'm glad we're able to help, and yeah, we're cleaning it out. You know, it's you had to expect that what you're going to get on the internet. You know, when I do my YouTube stream, which I'm hoping to get started up again for this broadcast, since I'm going to I finally got around to remembering my bumpers. You know, you get all kinds. You get people that, who, thank goodness it's a very small number of trolls, but they're insisting that I am a hook-nosed Jew who is a Mason and for Israel, even though I've said that the government of Israel is...
But you had a G in the background, Mark, on your show one time, or maybe it's still there. But.
Oh, it's always there. It's not something that I'm going to move. But yes, this guy is thinking that if I wasn't a Mason, why would I have a Masonic symbol featured so prominently in my video? And I'm like, and I explained it on a show a number of months ago. My wife's name is Gina. It's just an ornament. It's
Right.
and go check the archives. My wife has been on the show. You can go back 5-6 years or whatnot, and I'm not just making up my wife's name because I got called out for being a Mason, and this whole thing that I'm a hook-nosed Jew. I was like,
I have a big nose, and I take offense to that, by the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but there's all there's some people that'll go on the chat there, and I appreciate people tuning in. I do. It just, I've debunked this stuff so many times regarding the freeman on land and sovereign citizen kind of stuff. It's we've done entire shows on that, and if when it comes up on the show, yeah, we'll spend some time debunking one or two aspects of it. But you got to expect that when you're online. And sometimes it's not even just the trolls either. Because we say role play, and role playing is very important. But sometimes when you go on that group, you find somebody that's there, and they just want to f around, and they're not even using the Socratic method, Mark, at all. They're not interested in your method or in your basics or in simple logic or critical thinking. It's more just trying to argue, and it's like, well, from my experience on the NSP group, there's a few guys, like I said, every day willing to support and willing to help anyone, like Kevin, like Stahl, like these guys have just just helped me so much, and versus other people that come on there and they're argumentative and they're contentious. And we're cleaning it up, but unfortunately we're out of time, so I got to let you go. My name's Mark Stevens. We'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to the No State Project. I'm wow. We got the number. Well, I'm not going to give the number out. We're already at the end, near the end of the show, so we're not going to give the number out anymore. Just remember, Libertopia, 2018, May 3rd to May 6th, and I'd like to see you out there. It actually is really, if you've been to Libertopia, it's an outstanding venue. So I want to bring up on the show. We've got Kevin from Albuquerque.
Carrie.
What do you got what do you got for us today, Kevin?
It's Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, I'm sorry. What the hell's wrong with me today?
You and I have spoke quite a few times.
Yes.
The other day I had the court, I believe, could have been last Monday or something, and then I sent you an email. Are we still together here? Yeah. Okay. I went into court and I took my birth certificate. And when they called my name, I objected. Point of clarification, and which Carrie Bennett are you looking for?
Carrie. You kidding me? You did the birth certificate thing?
Well, I wasn't sure which Carrie they were looking for.
Oh,
Is that not? That I shouldn't have done that then.
No. Oh my gosh, Carrie. That. Oh no, that's always bad. And then they use that against you because now they can actually legitimately say that you're using some sovereign citizen arguments. They actually classify sovereign citizens as domestic terrorists. And now they've got you on record as using some of their tactics.
So how do I clear that up with them?
Don't do it again. Did you file documents with that?
Nope.
Okay, then don't ever do it again.
Well, I didn't want to get thrown in jail if Carrie Bennett did not appear in court.
No, they want. Well, you don't have to use your whole name, but no, there's no merit to that at all. No one has ever produced a single shred of evidence to even suggest that when they call you or they name you, say it's Mark Stevens, that it's not me, the flesh and blood man living on the land. They're looking for me. The obvious answer to that is they're going to throw me in jail if I play this game I've mentioned before, where somebody will go and the judge will say, well, is Mark Stevens here? And, well, I'm here as the administrator of the estate. And they say, well, again, is Mark Stevens here? Are you Mark Stevens? No, but I'm here as the administrator for the estate. And then judge will say, well, let's issue a warrant for this Mark Stevens guy and arrest him as soon as you see him. Isn't that evidence enough that they are looking for the flesh and blood man, and they're not trying to trick you into accepting the liability of the all caps name?
Right, but okay.
Oh,
so
Kerry.
Basically, when I go back in, okay, because basically the way that they put it all together is now that they want me to submit to some sort of competency review at my next moment before the court. So basically, I just stick to what facts that are you relying on, and then what evidence and jurisdiction.
And you have to disavow any of that stuff. You can say, look, I apologize. That was just some, I'm in a bad situation, and I'm just challenging jurisdiction and the prosecution's arguments, and the judge is getting upset, and he's denying everything without explanation. And I say, look, all I want to do is defend myself effectively by challenging the prosecutor's arguments, and hope that the judge is going to be honest and not continue trying to railroad me. That doesn't make me crazy.
Yes, because we did file with them. We filed a motion for dismissal. We filed also a motion for evidence, and then also with that one was also the request of the Brady bill with that one. And then, of course, on that other case, we filed the motion to quash. But since they've moved this thing forward, I don't know as to where I would file or what I would file from the one judge, assign this thing over to another judge, whether I would file a motion to quash that should be answered, or whether you'd sent an email and said I should file some motion where I forget the deal that you had told me the first time that we filed on the other case.
Well, I think what I mentioned before, and I would need you to do most of the legwork, is to get a petition for writ of prohibition into the higher court to stop the trial court from proceeding.
That would be on the second case. That's what we did on the first case. They're attacking me from 2008, and then they're attacking me from 2016. So, but the thing of it is 20 years ago, once I started down the path that you're on in life, and then of course obviously I'm not as accomplished or skilled as you are, once you've gone down a certain path within their system, you're labeled, you're earmarked, and obviously they just want to take you out and paddle you.
Well, when you do things like the birth certificate, you lend some credibility to what they're doing to you, and so hopefully that I never have to have a call like this again where somebody has gone in and done that. So for the case where it's not appropriate to go into the higher court, you still can file to recuse this particular judge, and then hopefully you can get basically a do-over on on what's happened so far. Strike what the judge has done so far and get the motion to dismiss in there and the discovery request. It's hopefully the next judge is going to stick to the rules a little better, sort of like what this Judge Navarro did recently with the Bundys.
Right. One of the things that I've done since the last time that I spoke to you on your show a week or so ago is that I got my son to help me do the Skype thing, but my Skype thing came up today and it's all in silence, so I wasn't listening to your show over the Skype. So then when I dialed up your show on my phone, and of course, obviously, as usual, it interrupts your show. And again, I can apologize for that.
No, you don't need to.
It just doesn't. Mark, I'm telling you, if there's ever a person that has got this method figured out, it's you. And I've certainly beholding to your philosophy on it, because I believe that you have the game. Now, I have a extreme
but Kerry,
curve.
wait. But let's address this.
Yes.
You want to look at the tactic, so to get up to speed. The tactic, the reason why it's not just experience. The reason why I can go in and have a federal judge or a Supreme Court justice admit that the application of the law is arbitrary, or a Supreme Court Chief Justice that told me in plain English that the evidence proving the laws apply to me, or that they've prosecuted and put other people in prison, is because I employ a very simple tactic or method, and that's the Socratic method. I ask leading questions, and I don't accept that anything that they're saying to me is true, so I just keep probing and asking questions until they're able to either verify their position or not. And it's always based in logic, in that I don't have the burden of proof. They do. So if you remember that they have the burden of proof, that would keep you, just that alone should tell you that what you did was wrong. Because even if you were right in what you were doing, you're going against the basic premise or the basic principle that the burden of proof is on the accuser, not on you.
Right. But when I pulled out the birth certificate, what I asked was, what Kerry Bennett are you asking for?
What did they say to that?
They told me to sit down.
Did they ever address the issue again after that?
Well, after she went through her service or her sermons and fleeced all the sheep, then they took up my issue again. And then when she called me to the deal, of course, obviously, that's right where I went again, is I objected, point of clarification, and I asked which Kerry Bennett, and she says, well, we're just going to send you over here to this other court.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Kerry. We're up against a break. My name is Mark Stevens. We're going into the last segment here on the big show for January 13th. So we got... I want to talk. Also, we're going to be talking with Kerry. We'll finish with Kerry, and then I'll talk a few minutes regarding the No State Project Skype chat study or a case study. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. And, some things going on in the chat I want to address real quick before I bring Kerry back. It's very important that we only look at what they are accusing us of. And they are not accusing you of being the name. All they're doing is asking if you're the one that is connected to that name, that goes by that name. Not that you are the name. It's just like, it's no different than, when they look at the car. Yes, an automobile, and I'm not saying that this is valid, that they should be doing this, has a title. But I've never seen anywhere where they're claiming that the title and the car are the same thing. We not only have to show people that governments are just men and women forcing us to pay them, we have to show them that this name stuff is ridiculous. But all right, so Kerry,
Yes.
Kerry, what happened when they addressed the issue of the birth certificate again? Did they just?
They never addressed it, Mark.
Good. Did they see your birth certificate? Did you have the birth certificate out there? Were you trying to make a distinction between yourself and the birth certificate that they may be asking about? So that you look, are you asking for the birth certificate, or are you asking for me?
Right. That's how it was implied from my point. And then when I tried to hand it to the judge, then she started screaming, "You cannot approach the bench." And then obviously after that, then she moved the case to where now I have to go in front of competency review to go back to appear back in their court again or something. There's two more cases coming up, one on the 19th and I think one on the 8th of the coming month.
Well, you can try a motion to vacate the strike the order as completely unnecessary and vindictive. That just because you're challenging the prosecution's arguments does not mean that you're not competent.
Right. Challenging the what you said?
Challenging the prosecutor's arguments. All you're doing is challenging a lawyer's claim. He claims that these laws, these rules apply to you because you're physically in, let's just say, New Mexico. All you're doing is asking for the evidence that's based on.
Right.
That's it. That's all we're doing. The rest of it is dealing with this crap where they say that they don't have to prove that, and then we have to make objections and bring out that it's a blatant double standard and, again, flagrant prosecutorial misconduct because they're arguing without evidence. And, again, this is something, if you're forced into that to do, is say, look, honestly, sir, do you think it's fair for the prosecutor to make legal claims against me without evidence? Do you think the judge for one moment would allow me to do that? Doesn't that tell you there's a double standard? It's not fair?
Right. Well, it's already been well over 200 and something days that this thing's kept going. And, of course, obviously the court rule of 182 days, but yet they file something, and then it allows their game to keep going.
Well,
and
the only way that you can do that legally is if you ask for a continuance. Otherwise, then they are violating due process.
Right.
That's the only time that they can go past that is if you ask for a continuance. No other way that they can. That's why when the prosecutor wants a continuance in a criminal situation, I've seen this. Judges will look over at the defendant and ask them, do you have any objections? And, the attorneys don't typically tell you what the implication of that is. I always tell people, they say, well, Mark, what can I just get a continuance? Yes, but you do have to know, and they probably won't tell you, you are waiving speedy trial rights. Oh, so that's...
Can I ask one other situation?
Sure.
The first time, or the first two times that I think that whenever we dealt with, originally when they moved the case forward without prejudice, and then the state's attorney was in there, and that day, and then she took up the case, and then she appeared the next time. But this last time when I showed up, I guess she got wind of that her fat was in the fire because there was a young man in there. And now he's the state prosecutor, so she's already kind of basically she doesn't want it on her. She doesn't want on her record to tarnish that she lost the case. So she's appointed this young kid fresh out of law school, I presume, as the state prosecutor. And boy, he took me back there in the back room and asked me, and he jumped out of the room almost immediately and said, "Man, we're ready to go to trial." Of course.
Well, if you're not defending yourself appropriately, or if you're... See, this is where I keep going back to something like with Ian Freeman of this network and Free Talk Live when I helped him with the DMV hearing. When the prosecutor knows they've got someone like the psychopath Michael King, the one who hung up on me, they can very confidently take it to trial because it's a slam dunk. They know that it doesn't matter if they have no evidence. They know the judge isn't going to hold them to their burden. It's just like, why does someone like Stephen Mai here, why does he continually engage and be a serial offender of prosecutorial misconduct? Because nothing is done to him. The judges don't throw him in jail as a punishment, even for a day. And that's why, so that's here, when they're that hot to go to trial, I think it's usually because they know the judge is in their back pocket and is going to allow them to do whatever the hell they want. Just like what we have happened with Jared, and what's happened to so many of us. They will actually impeach their own witness. It's quite something to see. And we've
still they move forward.
Yeah, and so the prosecutor will actually impeach his own witness. And you're like, are you kidding? There's so much wrong with that. They lied, and they deliberately put a witness on the stand they knew wasn't competent. They fought your objection over that when you say that they don't have personal knowledge, and everything to get him on the stand. And then they object once you... Imagine the insanity of that. I have impeached every single police officer brought against me, and almost every person that I've worked with has been able to do the same thing. So imagine a system that routinely declares the chief witness incompetent, and yet they still convict you. So even if you're a diehard statist and you can't stand me, please, somebody give me a rational explanation for why the police officer almost 100% of the time is declared incompetent to make legal determinations. Yet that is his job. The only thing, Kerry, I've ever heard is them trying to state that the police officer doesn't make legal determinations, only judges do. And that's ridiculous. When you make a determination that the law has been violated, and you say that there's probable cause that the law was, that's a legal conclusion. It's not a judicial conclusion. It's not a judicial ruling, but it is for goodness sake, it's a legal conclusion or a legal opinion. Ugh.
Well, it's the same as the officer's operating a car, the same as he's operating a legal action when he writes out the summons.
Well, right. When he writes the summons, he's saying, I certify upon reasonable grounds that the person named above committed the named act. He's not saying he's saying you violated a statute. That's anytime you say someone broke the law, that is a legal conclusion. The difference is, I'll spell it out for trolls or people who are really thick who don't get this yet. There is taking person A, let's say he took a gun and shot somebody in the face, causing their immediate death. And they did it purposely. They said, I'm going to kill you. He points the gun, shot him in the face like Dick Cheney did. The man died. That is a statement of fact. To say then that he murdered him is a legal opinion. No different than when you say you broke the law. Oh, you committed murder. See, committing murder is not a statement of fact. It's a legal conclusion that is supposed to be based on facts. So this idea that the cop is not making legal determinations, you know what? I've got one thing to say to all those people that try to claim that as a way to apologize for the system. And that is abafango. If anyone says that the police officer is not making legal conclusions, fungal. That's all I got to say. And that should be the only response we have to those people.
Right.
So,
can I ask?
Well, we're actually out of time, so you have to just you get about 20 seconds.
Okay, should I file some sort of claim against the officer and the prosecutor and the judge?
I believe you should. I believe you should definitely file claims against the insurance, naming them as the ones who caused the damage. Yes, I do. I do. I can help you with that all fair. So I'm gonna have to let you go. My name is Mark Stevens. You've been listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, for this January 13, 2008. Live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. Remember, Libertopia 2018 is May 3rd through May 6th. Go to libertopia.org. Hope to see you out there. And yes, go look up risk management for the insurance companies that for the city or county insurance, and then definitely file claims against them. I will be live on Wednesday, of course. So anyone that I was not able to get to today, give us a call on the commercial-free broadcast on my YouTube channel on Wednesday, starting at 4 Mountain Standard Time. So till then, salud.